Hello YouTube! Today I'll be going through the release of my new mod, Training Mode Mod Plus, the installation, the details of the mod, and some suggested usages from for me. So how do you install the mod? Well, first things first, I would highly recommend installing Fluffy Mod Manager, right? Installing ReFramework, you can Google how to do that. And then in getting the script core mod, I'll have links in the description and also on the next page of my own mod and also my own mod as well, right? Activate both of these are both required. Now we can launch the game. I have some other mods installed, but you can ignore those. They just get me into training mode faster. The first thing you'll realize when you use the mod is that by default it doesn't show anything, right? Like it has this little UI thing, and that is because it only shows stuff happening when you are in training mode already. Okay, that is one thing. So it means that if you leave training mode, you're not going to see anything anymore, right? And that's one little detail about the mod. So let's go through what the mod itself has. So the first thing you'll see top to bottom, refresh training mode. This is just a button, it just does that. Refresh modules, right? This is a kind of catch-all for any bugs you might experience. Sometimes it just happens. I don't know. I've tried to debug. Nothing really fixes it. You just press this, just refreshes everything, right? It saves the config, and we'll talk about that later. So here, refresh and randomize. We'll talk about that later. So the important thing is we are talking now about the training settings and the training parameters and how you change those. So by that I mean, for example, HB, drive, super, unique resources. As you can see, even right now, you can see I have my drive bar, right, set up such that it starts at not a whole value, right? It starts at like 4 point something bars. That is normally not achievable through the in-game menu. As you can see here, now you see how that turned out. So, but let's start with the health, right? Health is the same as the in-game, right? You can just change it, easy peasy for both characters. Drive, on the other hand, right? Here by default it's set to stocks. So it's basically just in the same way as it is in game. But if you untick this, suddenly you can change it to 10% increments of each bar. And if you toggle this, toggle player one drive points type absolute / percentage, now you can change down to the singular units. Units are singular, but point being, you can change each unit of the drive gauge. Same thing applies to the super gauge, right? You can change all this. Once again, if something appears to be breaking, if it's not working properly, just refresh the modules and it should work. Sometimes refreshing training mode works as well. And here as well, you can change for each single unit. Now let's go to the more interesting parts, and there are some randomizer toggles. I'll talk about that later. So unique character gauges, and I'll better show this by changing the characters to say Jury and I don't know, Blanca, for example. Where's Blanca? Here. Since both of these characters have unique resources. So there are two types of resources in this game, generally speaking. There are install timers, right, that you can see the yellow bar and the super gauge, or there are resources that are generally shown up here. So these are more or less the same settings, at least for just the changing the parameters. These are the same settings that you have in-game, except for when you use maximum, which basically just starts the thing, you can actually select from where you want the install to start, right? So if I select here, the install is going to start halfway each time I reset my buttons, right? Oopsie. And I don't know for what exactly you would want to use this, but maybe you have a scenario in mind, right? You want to replay takeover, but maybe have the opponent do something else. We'll get to that, to the usages later. And here, same thing, right? You just have the settings. You can even toggle the infinite usage. Doesn't really matter. One thing that you do have to pay attention to is that for some characters, for example Blanca, and there's a little warning here, the index values, the values for the slider do not represent the same values as up here. In those cases, both a warning will be written and the actual value will be also displayed up here. Hopefully you can see it. So that's that for unique character resources, and once again the randomization, we'll talk about that later. Lastly, the best thing I would, in my opinion, of the just tuning the parameters, just setting them, is the start position adjustment. And here you saw a little double reset. Again, one of those bugs that I don't know how to, like, I don't know what exactly causes it. So by default, if you just enable this option, you have the player distance. You can set the player distance, and this player distance, if you only have that active, still maintains the left-right center shortcuts when you reset training mode, right? So like you hold down, you go back to the center, you hold up and reset, you switch sides. When you go left and right, and when you hold up and down as well, it just switches, right? If you're familiar with those will be kept. And here by default you have preset relative distances set with a couple of presets, right? Close range, mid range, far range, throw tech range, round start distance, zoning range, and these will be kept as well when you go into the Kona. That's one useful thing. For example, maybe you want to practice something from this distance, I don't know, hit confirming, I don't know what you want to do. And it's kind of annoying that you get reset in the Kona every time and you need to backdash, so now it just does that by default. But it's not just this, it's not just reset presets. You can also set unit values, and you know, that's just nice to have, in my opinion. Sadly, they don't since they are so different, the presets, they don't necessarily like agree if you switch between them, so you'll need to repress it, but you know, that's besides the point. Last thing, the start position adjustment. So what we have set with the previous setting is the relative distance between the two characters, right? What this allows us to do is to change where a pivot point, by default the center point between the two characters, will be set. So for example, you can see here once again a discrete slider that divides the screen in 12ths, and you can just set this to start wherever you want. You can also change where this position is, as in you can make it the center between the two characters, or you can have it be the player 1 character or the player 2 character. Either way works. Now, obviously you can also set this to be values, and one interesting thing about this is that you can also not just set an absolute position for the values, you can also toggle a distance from the left corner, right? So you can, for example, say I want to be very far away from the left corner, or I want to be really close to the left corner, and these will agree. There will be a conversion and they will agree between each other. One nice thing, for example, is you can say I want the pivot to be the left player, and now I want the distance from the left corner. So when I have a 0, I am at this distance, and when I'm a little bit farther away, I'm just a little bit farther away. One thing to take notice is that P1 side means that when you press up, right, the shortcuts from before don't work, but they will switch the player positions, right? So if I press down, left, and left, as before, you would switch characters, or for example down and up, and these will switch the position, and that is why it's written as P1 side, not the actual player 1. And that is that for just the settings of data. Now, second thing, still going back to this menu, and we'll start at the top. So now there is this refresh in randomize button, and we'll get to that right now when we talk about randomization. But take care of the hotkeys, because that is, in my opinion, very important, because you don't always want to be just pressing the button with your mouse while you have a controller in your hand. That's quite annoying. So you have a hotkey that you can set. By default, I have it set to my binds, right? Because I'm the one that I made them out for myself, so I've just set it like that. You can change these. You can, first of all, you can disable a modifier, so it's just one of them. And actually, I'll show you while I have the health randomizer on. As you can see, it randomizes the HP. You can also just do it from here. But and you can obviously change it. I can change it to be a square, then it just does that. I'll once again change it back to what I have. And this works for keyboards as well, right? Like I can have it be F. So I can have F. And as you can see, works perfectly well. This comes from the script call dependency. So about the randomizer, all of these settings have a randomizer, and as you can see, it works perfectly well. And you can also enable bounds, right? So you can set the max and minimum value, and it's obviously going to respect those bounds. Same thing for the drive. One thing to take care of is that you can also discretize the random value, right? So if you have between units or in the unit settings, it's gonna randomize, for all the units, right? And I'll talk in a second why there's that burnout thing. But if you discretize it, then it's just gonna be random between the stock values, like coal values. Why is there burnout included in the randomization? Because you can go into the negatives with your bounds. So you can also just practice the opponent being in burnout, which is neat. And if you activate it by default, I have it set such that it never goes into burnout, but only when you have the bounds on. Otherwise, it's also going to be enable the burnout. So let's remove this, and as you can see, random amounts of drive gauge. Now, super, same thing as drive, but a bit simpler because we simply do not have the burnout scenario. And I forgot to mention earlier that obviously you can also just set the burnout. The value of the drive bar is going to be the same as for the burnout bar. Now, unique character gauges. So here's where it gets a little bit funky. So for the installs, right, when you have infinite, you can't actually set a randomizer because obviously it's infinite. When you have set it to standard or maximum, you can, and you'll see a slider immediately. So this slider actually has this little bit of text, and it's the probability of the Feng Shui engine of the install being disabled when randomized. Meaning that when you randomize with a low percentage here, more often than not, it's going to be active. When it's high, it means more often than not, the install will not be active. And as you can see also, the maximum, the start values, the starting activation values also changes. And you can set these values, right? So you can also just, for example, just put the values up here and have it either start with 33% probability or not have it at all, or once again you can just have it be random values, right? Perfectly, you know, every setting imaginable. For the stocks, right, for the resources that you can see up here, the randomization is once again kind of similar, as in it just kind of works. It just gives you random values, excluding the infinite value, obviously, and you can once again set bounds for the values you want to have. So it's never gonna be 0 stocks. Same thing for Blancachan, etc. There's one actual little bug that I haven't fixed yet, and that applies to Jamie, and I'll show you actually, because might as well. Where is Jamie? I haven't gotten to fixing it yet. basically, if you have both forge rings and the install, then the install won't decrease because you have maximum drinks. I'm not sure if this is how it's supposed to work. I don't know. I don't know. I feel like it shouldn't matter. You should probably, if you're going to randomize this with the install, you most likely want to disable that anyways. That way it's not going to give you an issue. So that's that, right? And lastly, the positional parameters, once again, also pretty self-explanatory. As with the drive and the super, it also bases its randomized values and the bounds based on the presets you have. So you can both have you can have randomized between the presets. So it's always gonna set the distance. Hold up, I'll disable this. So it's always gonna have choose between the presets, and you can have you can choose bounds between the presets themselves. Once again, or you can just use actual values, and when you set the preset bounds, the bounds with the presets, they do get transformed into their actual values, but not vice versa, because once again, you don't have a preset for any of the unit values. Actually, do they? They might not, actually. I might have misspoken here. But yeah, you can also use it with the actual units. And lastly, for the starting position, once again, you can both randomize with the discrete positions, and these are absolute, or you can randomize with the actual with the unit values, and these will also get translated to each to the version to their respective version based on the frame of reference. And that is that for the randomizer. So, you know, took a while, 17 minutes. Didn't expect that to take this long, but it is what it is. So let's get to the rest of the modules, which should be a lot speedier. So this is the character info display, and this shows you health, drive, super gauge, any install you want, and the positions and the distance between the characters. Why is this? Well, in my mind, this would help you to figure out, for example, what settings you want to have on a specific training regimen. For example, maybe you want to see what's the max range I have between these characters, and it's like, okay, what range does this button from Jamie reach? It's here, and I can see here the distance between the characters is 161. So I can go here, and instead of randomizing it, I remove it, and I just set this to 161. And now I know, boom, this works. And every time I reset, right, I'm at that position as I wanted. And again, this is because this works. Also, you can see that all the data is updates live, right? And another thing that is useful is, for example, against characters, against big bodies, right, that have more than, I mean, not necessarily big bodies, but against characters that have more than 10,000 HP or less than that, the health randomizer does pick based on percentages, as is what the game offers. And these values would help you actually know what the percentage represents in actual units. Same for the install. I'll try to enable it right now. As you can see, it shows me what the current value of the install is. And lastly, we'll get to game speed. Now this is a bit less useful, possibly, but basically, and as you can see here, sometimes it doesn't work. Again, a bug, just refresh. And the in-game default is only 50% or 100% or pausing. Here now you can set any of the in-betweens, you can even increase it. Why would you want to do this? For example, maybe you can set it at 90% and practice some hard input or DPOS or something of the sort. Realistically, it's your choice, but yeah, it just kind of works. And once again, if it doesn't, sometimes if something breaks, try refreshing training mode or try refreshing the module itself. All the configs regarding your values will get saved, and they also get saved when you exit training mode. So let's try doing that as the last thing regarding the actual showcase. And then I'll get on to showing some examples. So as you can see, work perfectly well. And yeah, that's enough. If all you wanted to know is have information regarding the mod, this should be enough to get you started. Now I will go ahead and actually give a little bit of context, or rather give a couple of ideas of what you can do with this mod, right? Like why is it useful? So the first thing is, and let me pull out a character I actually know how to play. Let's do Sea Viper. Oh, I have a mod active. Whatever. I mean, this is a mod showcase, so who cares? So the first thing is, why would you use this mod? And the clearest answer is just practicing conversions, right? You can make it, for example, something. Oh, what the fuck? You can have it be a punish counter conversion. Oh man, I'm fumbling. Or you can have it just in general when you do training mode drills. So I'll showcase this better by having beautiful look here. Do some things, right? So I have some recordings, and this is just a tentative guide. Ooh, what is this? The setting got overwritten. Hold up. All right, let's keep it at that. For example, we can have it such that we have discrete randomization anywhere on screen, actually closer to the center of the screen, and we can have randomized distance presets between mid-range and far range, or rather from far range I want it to be, and I'll use this such that it converts the values so I can increase it a little bit. So I'm a little bit distant, I'm a little bit far away. No, and I won't change these other values, but what I will make is that the player 2 randomization goes up to a maximum, goes around this value, right? That way I can always know that I'm more than likely to kill. And now I can just randomize and have the settings go on. And the nice thing is that if you bind your value, your binds of your training mode refresh and the randomizer to different things, and my recommendation is to have, for example, I have the refresh to just select, and I use a modifier to randomize it. That way, how it works is that I can just refresh normally, right? And once I'm happy with the conversion I got, right, then I can randomize again. If I'm not, I can just... Oh, oopsie. Oops, I forgot how to... And yeah, so that's kind of the idea. So that's the first training regimen thing. That's the first idea, just conversions. You can also do this, apply to this for Okies, for example, and so on. So, I don't know. I have this hit here. Oopsie daisies. I haven't played Viper in a week, so. I don't know. Maybe I'm here, and here you get decent Oki. Maybe I have a little bit more. Let's see. This scenario, right? Okay, hold up. Yeah, okay. I don't know. I'm not... Okay, from here, for example, right? I could do this. That is actually pretty good already. But if I were to do the up... No, that doesn't change shit, actually. I mean, the idea was, for example, I can do this as Viper. And now I'm in the corner, plus full. And since I have a drive advantage, it might be worth to do this, especially if I'm actually a bit farther away from the corner. But yeah, that is basically one application of the randomizer. Now, what is another application of the randomizer? And hopefully I have this recorded. What the fuck? Right, yeah, okay. So another application is resource awareness. More specifically, drive, health, and super gauge. So it's not an uncommon scenario to have, and let me stop Luke here for a second, to have Luke do a sequence like the following, and let me make it so that I'm actually close range. Right. Something like this. Right? So. And then, bam! He bops you with that. Now, obviously, what you can do is perfect parry. But, like, realistically, if he doesn't have that much drive gauge, it might be worth to DI. I mean, if he doesn't have super, it might be worth to DI. So you can have this awareness. For example, here I saw he had 2 bars. He has 2 bars. He can do that. Obviously, you don't have to just have this setting. I can have that be active as well. And holy shit. Hold up. Let me change that a bit closer because this is annoying. Right. And that is another thing you can practice, for example. This also doesn't just apply to special moves that can be cancelled into super if you try to DI them. It also just applies to, for example, defense in the corner, or just in neutral. For example, the previous drill that I just showcased, I also have a DI recording. So I can set my own HP to be relatively low, right? To get randomized between actually 1 and like 15 or like 10, where it's in kind of a risky situation, and I need to actually pay attention and see if, for example, here I would have died, and I actually need to pay attention and try to perfect parry. Is that the only recording, or is that just coincidence? And now I know that. But here, for example, I have a little bit more HP, and he might be dead, actually. Perfect demonstration. I recognize the fact that he had no super, and he might actually not be dead there, because I did 4800, and we can actually use the character info display to see how much health he has. So he was not dead. He had 20 HP left. Now the question is, could I have optimized this situation? And now we can try again. And let's see. I don't think we could have. No, actually, maybe we could have. Actually. Oh my god. I forgot how to anti-air with Viper. Hold up. Alright. So now I actually hit him with the normal. So I know that's gonna kill for sure. But yeah, let's pretend like that wasn't the case. Or for example, that is important recognition. And I fucked up the combo. So, you know, ignore all my fails and everything. Point being, right, it's one of the possible applications, right? Realistically, you gotta knock yourself out. Just try stuff, see how it works, right? This mod, after all, is something that might be useful to you. In my opinion, it definitely has some applications that are good. For example, once again, drilling. You don't have to do this only as the neutral drills, or you kind of try to whiff punish and whatever. You can also do it when you train for Oki, right? Choose based on what situation you have. Choose what you want to do. For example, if you're Kami, oopsie, and you see you have CA, and let me just fix the CA. But picture that this is randomizer, right? And you want to lab your Oki, and see, for example, here now it's not working. So I would refresh modules, and now it's working again. So as you can see, sometimes it just kind of breaks for no apparent reason. Just refresh the modules, should work again. So for example, if I'm doing this, oopsie daisy. So I had that, so I probably fucked up all the Oki. But you can, for example, lab some stuff like this. And if you notice that you have level 3, or for example, if you do this as Oki, you want to pay attention to it, right? So say you're labbing some specific knockdown Oki. So let's do this actually. And now I'm ready because I know I have a level 3. Now say I randomize it instead, and maybe next time I'm not going to go for the throw, and I will do something else. So again, it is a tool to help you with your awareness, meter situation, just in general. It's just a tool to help you with labbing, right? And that is that. Realistically, it took a bit long, 30 minutes of recording, but hopefully this is a detailed enough guide, and hope you enjoyed it and hope you learned something. Have a nice day.